The clear morning covered the garden with a thin layer of dew like silk. The dewdrops glistened on each green vegetable leaf, reflecting the early morning sunlight like small gems. The garden was nestled next to a babbling brook, where the sound of flowing water mixed with the chirping of birds created a gentle melody of nature. In the middle of that scene, a small cat named Miu Miu was walking with light feet. On his head was a lovely green hat, slightly tilted to one side as he had just hopped on the grassy path. A small, dark green backpack swung behind him, and in his hand was a plump, bright red carrot just pulled from his beloved vegetable patch. Miu Miu was not an ordinary cat. He preferred gardening to chasing mice and watching flowers bloom to curling up by the fireplace. This garden was his whole world, where he planted tiny seeds, watered them every day, and waited for them to grow into lush green vegetables. Today was a special day, the day the first carrots of the season were harvested. When he pulled the first carrot out of the ground, Miu Miu cried out with delight. He held it high, letting the sunlight shine through its smooth skin, and smiled brightly. It worked! He thought to himself, filled with joy, but that joy did not last long in Miu Miu's heart alone. He suddenly remembered Tiao Bao, the shy little rabbit who lived in the other corner of the garden. Tiao Bao was Miu Miu's best friend, although the two were as different as day and night. Miu Miu was active, always full of energy, while Tiao Bao was shy, preferring to sit quietly watching the clouds drift by rather than running around. But there was one thing Tiao Bao loved more than anything: carrots. Every time he saw carrots, his round eyes would light up and his little pink nose would twitch slightly in excitement. Miu Miu didn't think much of it. He slung his backpack over his shoulder, held the carrots tightly in his hand, and ran past the rows of lush green vegetables. The wind blew gently, causing his green hat to flutter, but he didn't pay any attention. There was only one thought in his mind. Little Bao will love this. Little Bao was busy working on his lettuce bed. He liked lettuce more than carrots, but that didn't mean he wasn't fascinated by sweet carrots. Little Bao's small hands gently pulled weeds, and his long ears drooped down because he was concentrating. His pure white fur sparkled in the sunlight, but his eyes were a little lethargic. Yesterday, Little Bao had stayed up late to watch the stars, and now he just wanted to finish his work and rest a bit. Suddenly, a loud call broke the silence. "Hey, Xiao Bao, look what I have!" Xiao Bao was startled and raised his head. In front of him was Miu Miu, standing there with a big smile and a carrot held high in her hand. The sunlight shone on the carrot, making it look like a precious gem, and Xiao Bao couldn't take his eyes off it. "A carrot?" he asked softly, his voice filled with surprise and joy. Miu nodded enthusiastically, stepping closer. "That's right, I just harvested it, the first one of the season. I've been growing it for so long, watering it, weeding it, waiting, and now it's grown this big. But I immediately thought of you. You like carrots, right?" Xiao Bao blinked, his ears perking up slightly. He didn't expect Miu Miu to bring him the first carrot. For me?" he asked again, his voice so small as if he was afraid he had misheard. "Of course," Miu Miu smiled brightly, placing the carrot in Tia Bao's hand. "I grew it, but I want to share it with you. Friends share, right?" Tia Bao held the carrot, feeling its coolness and smoothness in his hand. He looked up at Miu Miu, his round eyes now sparkling with joy. Thank you, Miu Miu. I'm so happy," he said, his voice trembling with emotion. Miu Miu waved her hand, laughing loudly. "There's nothing to thank. Seeing you happy makes me happy. Here, try it. See if it's sweet." Tiubok hesitated a bit, then took a small bite. The sweet taste of the carrot spread in his mouth, and he couldn't help but smile. "It's delicious. So sweet, Miu Miu." The two little friends sat down by the vegetable bed, eating and chatting. Miu Miu told about the days he took care of the carrot bed, from sowing the seeds until they sprouted, then grew day by day. Little Bao listened, his ears twitching every time Miu Miu got to the exciting parts, like when he was worried that the storm would flood the vegetable bed, or when worms ate some of the young plants. Under the gentle sunlight, the garden seemed to become a private world for the two of them, where there was only laughter and simple joy. But the story did not stop there. When Little Bao finished eating the carrots, Miu Miu suddenly stood up, opened her small green backpack. "I have another surprise for you," he said, his eyes sparkling mischievously. Little Bao curiously tilted his head. "What's the surprise?" Miu Miu rummaged through the backpack, then pulled out a small wooden box. He placed it in front of Little Bao and opened the lid. Inside was a handful of carrot seeds, carefully wrapped in a yellow handkerchief. "These are the seeds I saved from last season. I think you should try growing carrots too. We can do it together and we'll have lots of carrots to eat in the future." Xiao Bao looked at the tiny seeds with wide eyes. He had never thought of growing carrots himself. He had always found it difficult, and he was afraid that he wasn't as patient as Miu Miu. "But I don't know how to grow them. What if I mess up?" he asked worriedly. Miu Miu patted his friend's shoulder, laughing loudly. "It's okay. I've messed up so many times. Once I watered too much and all the plants died. Once I forgot to weed and worms ate the whole bed. But I tried again, and now you see, these carrots are so delicious. I'll help you, don't worry. Miu Miu's words were like a warm breeze blowing through Xiao Bao's heart. He smiled and nodded. Okay, I'll try. Thank you, Miu Miu. From that day on, the two little friends began a new journey. Miu Miu taught Tiao Bao how to sow seeds, how to water them just enough, and how to weed without hurting the plants. Tiao Bao was very clumsy. Once he spilled a bucket of water on Miu Miu, making both of them laugh out loud. But day by day, Tu Bao gradually became more confident. He began to love his garden, to love the little green buds growing under his care. Everything seemed to be peaceful forever, until one day, a big storm suddenly came. The wind howled through the garden, blowing away the leaves and flooding a corner of the vegetable bed. When the storm passed, Miu Miu and Tu Bao ran out to sea, their hearts heavy. Tu Bao's carrot bed, where he had poured so much effort, now had only a few sparse plants left. The rest were washed away by the water. Xiao Bao crouched down, his ears drooping, his eyes filled with tears. I know, I can't do it. All my hard work, he choked. Miu Miu stood beside him, not saying anything right away. He looked at the ruined vegetable bed, then at Xiao Bao, who was sad. Finally, he sat down next to his friend, gently saying, It's okay, Xiao Bao. When the storm comes, we'll just start over. We didn't ruin anything. It's just that the heavens didn't help us this time. But you know, I still have the seeds, and I'm still here with you. Xiao Bao looked up, surprised. Aren't you mad at me? I lost the whole carrot bed. Miu Miu shook her head, smiling gently. Angry about what? You're my friend. Friends aren't meant to be mad at each other, but to overcome difficulties together. Come on, stand up. Let's clean up and replant. Those words were like a ray of sunshine that dispelled the dark clouds in Xiao Bao's heart. He wiped his tears, nodded. Together, the two of them cleaned up the garden, picked up the broken plants, and dug the soil flat. Miu Miu also brought some seeds from home, and the two of them started planting again. Under their hands, the garden gradually revived, lush and green as if no storm had ever passed. Time passed, and a new harvest season arrived. This time, not only Miu Miu, but also Tiao Bao had his own carrots. When he pulled up the first carrot, Tiao Bao shouted happily and ran to show it to Miu Miu. Look, I did it. Thank you, Miu Miu. Miu Miu laughed loudly and hugged her friend. I knew you could do it. Now we have lots of carrots to eat together. That afternoon, the two little friends sat in the middle of the garden, eating sweet carrots and telling each other funny stories. The bright yellow sunlight shone down, illuminating Miu Miu's green hat and Tiao Bao's white fur. The garden was not only a place to grow vegetables, but also a place where their friendship grew, strong through warm, sunny days and storms. When the sunset fell, the garden was dyed a brilliant orange, as if the whole world was embracing Miu Miu and Tiao Bao in its warm embrace. The two little friends sat on a small wooden chair that Miu Miu had made herself from dry branches in the garden. In front of them was a basket full of carrots, the result of many days of caring for them together, overcoming challenges together. The afternoon wind blew gently, carrying the scent of earth and grass, making Miu Miu's green hat tilt slightly, and Xiao Bao's long ears tremble slightly. Xiao Bao held a small carrot, looked at it for a while, then turned to Miu Miu. You know, I never thought I could grow carrots before. I was always afraid of failure, afraid that I wasn't good enough. But thanks to you, I dared to try. I want to say thank you for being my friend. Miu Miu was stunned for a moment, then laughed loudly, patting Xiao Bao on the shoulder. You're so silly. I have to thank you too. Without you, this garden would be so sad. I like seeing you surprised when you receive the carrot and listening to you tell stories about the stars you look up at every night. That's what friends are for, making each other happier, right? Xiao Bao smiled, nodding. He held up the carrot and whispered, Then promise, no matter how big the storm is in the future, you and I will always rebuild the garden together? Miu Miu raised her hand and patted Tiao Bao's hand as a promise. Promise, this garden is ours, and so is our friendship, forever green. When the sun set, leaving a sky full of sparkling stars, the two little friends stood up and carried the basket of carrots home. Their laughter echoed in the quiet space, mixed with the sound of the babbling brook and the rustling of leaves. The garden is now not only a place to sow seeds, but also a place to sow the seeds of a beautiful friendship, overcoming time and all difficulties. The story of Miu Miu and Tiao Bao ends. And now, I would like to send my sincere thanks to you, the audience who listened to this story. Thank you. I wish you a beautiful day and see you again in the next stories.